Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I'm joined today by Robyn Schooley. Robyn and I are on our fourth Q&A for the Let's Talk channel on our YouTube channel. The first three have been pretty successful. We've had some good feedback, so I thought we'll keep doing this until we start getting some negative feedback. But I think all the positive feedback is actually because Robyn's on the show, not me.
Hardly. As your dad said, I'm just the producer.
Is that what he said?
Well, because yes.
He told me that
you're the talent. I'm the producer.
Oh, I see. He told me you're the star. Anyway, well, my dad doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yes, he does.
Okay, well, when you're ready, why don't we start with our first question?
Okay, number one. Hi, Nick. What's your opinion on step counters?
I think step counters are great because they hold you accountable. So, for example, like I've got a few clients that they know they have to hit their 5,000 steps a day. Let's just throw that number out there. Mm-hmm. And so the step counter keeps them accountable because let's say it's 5 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock at night, the day's winding down, they're at home, like, oh, I've only reached 3,500 steps. I better get out there and knock out 1,500 more. Mm-hmm. So I think step counters are great for keeping you accountable as far as getting your cardio in. As far as if they keep track on how many calories you're burning, I know some of them do that. I don't believe that is accurate, but I think they're great for holding you accountable. So I would definitely invest in one if you're finding it difficult to get your cardio in. So I think they're great to have. Great tool.
Cool. Okay, number two. What do you think is a realistic amount of muscle a woman can add per year?
So that's an open-ended question because it's going to depend on a few factors. One is the woman training enhanced or is the woman natural? So if we're talking about an enhanced athlete, you know, a woman that's taking anabolic steroids, I mean, the sky's the limit. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, that could be 5, to 10, 15 pounds of muscle. But what's considered that this person might be natural. So as a natural, I'm going to look at first their training background, their age, and how often they're going to the gym. So I would say though, give an average of a number, I would say anywhere from 2 to 5 pounds is a realistic goal. Again, depending on how long you've been training. If you've been training for 15, 20 years, you should be happy just to put on 1 pound of muscle a year. But if you're someone new to the gym and you just started training and you're in the gym 3-4 times a week, I see no reason why you can't put on a good 5 to 10 pounds of natural lean muscle. Keep in mind though, the longer you train, you're not going to be getting those same gains anymore. So, but I don't see why a woman can't put on a good consistent amount of muscle each year as they continue to train.
Can I ask, sorry, just because you piqued my interest and I don't know, is that different between a man and woman?
So the theory, So the theory is that with men, because we have more testosterone, we can put on more muscle. But I mean, I train both men and women, and I've seen men put on lots of muscle, but I've also seen women put on lots of muscle. And I think it really depends on your genetic potential. So I don't want to set limitations on someone and say, well, you can only put on 5 pounds a year, because then they get that in their head, but I can only put on 5 pounds in 1 year. Yeah. Just want to make sure the weight that you are adding on is quality. Okay. So you don't just want to add on weight on the scale and say, hey, I'm up 10 pounds. Yeah. But if 8 pounds of that is water and fat, it's not very good. So I always say slow and steady, same way to lose weight, slow and steady. So for myself personally, at this point of training, I'm happy if I'm able to put on 1.5 pounds of muscle in 1 year. That's where I'm satisfied with that. I'm thrilled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Number 3, Nick, what's the best way to make my calves grow? I train them 3 times a week, really heavy, but no matter what I do, they won't grow.
Yeah. Stop training them 3 times a week and stop training them super heavy. Your calves have 2 muscle groups in them called your gastrocnemius and your soleus. They respond best. They have fast twitch muscle fibers. So they respond best, in my opinion, they respond best to high repetitions. When I train my calves, I keep my reps usually between anywhere from 15 to 25. So I throw out the rules of 8 to 12 reps or any of that stuff for calves. Think of it. You walk on your feet all day. So you know how much calf activation is involved just by stepping, climbing stairs, things like that. So I find the best way to do your calves, keep those reps high. Keep the weight a little bit lighter, and don't forget your double toe taps. Anyone who's my client who's watching this right now knows what I'm talking about. It's a 1 toe tap, 2 toe tap on a calf race. Most people just 1 toe tap. I go that 1-2 hop. You know what I'm talking about. You've done it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And just a side note, I always notice the people with the best calves wear heels. I'm not going to put it down to just women.
Yeah.
But anyone that people wearing heels a lot, fantastic.
Well, it's funny that you say that because that's actually a
It's because
problem that,
you're always pointing.
yeah. And that's a problem I have sometimes with some of my female clients because they don't want their calves to get too big. I
No.
say, well, you better stop wearing heels. And women tend to actually have better calves than men, in my experience. Like women actually put on more muscle. And I think it does have to do with what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's because they wear heels, but it's also the incision between their calcaneus, which is their heel, versus their gastrocnemius, which is their calf. So it's a lot shorter than a man's. So that's why you'll see a lot of guys with what we call sheep legs, where they don't really have any calves, just straight.
Yeah.
Whereas you see some women with phenomenal calves. So I think it's a little bit of genetics, maybe the high heels, but also the incision from the calcaneus to the gastrocnemius.
Yeah. Yeah. You sound very smart with big words. Number 4, hi Nick, is bodybuilding all drugs and genetics?
No. So, okay, I mean, if you're talking at the elite level, like Mr. Olympia, I'd have to say yes to the genetics. The genetic elite are always going to be in that top 5. But you can't just take someone who's genetically gifted, give them a bunch of anabolic steroids, and boom, they're going to blow up like a Ronnie Coleman or, Jay Cutler or someone like that. It does take work. But the genetic elite, it's like a LeBron James. You could play basketball for years and be, practice every day, but you might not be as good as LeBron James because a lot of that is natural born talent and genetics. So with bodybuilding is everyone has their genetic potential. I don't think most people have the ability to reach their genetic potential because they're not willing to do what it takes to get to that level naturally. But as far as do I think bodybuilding is all drugs? Absolutely not. No. I still think if you took the drugs out of it, the genetic elite would still be at the top. And then there's the average people like myself would be in the middle. And then people who just don't really train very hard at the very bottom. Okay. So I don't want people to get discouraged and say, well, I have shitty genetics and, I don't take drugs, so I shouldn't bother. That's not true. You don't even know what your genetic potential is until you've really started training, really started dieting and supplementing right. And I mean with good natural supplements.
Okay. Number 5. Nick, how many hours before?
Oh, we just had a freeze there, Robyn.
Did you hear it? Do you want me to repeat?
Yeah, you can repeat it, please.
Okay. Number 5. Sorry. How many hours? Hi, Nick. How many hours before I go to bed should I stop eating carbs if I want to lose weight?
I don't believe you should stop eating carbs because you're going to bed. I think you have to look at the overall picture. So let's use a 24-hour window. If you're getting the majority of your meals in, let's say, before 5 o'clock at night, then yeah, you might just want to have 1 or 2 meals. If you find that you sleep better on a half empty stomach, then I would cut it a few hours out. But if you're looking for results, as in if you're going to gain fat or you're going to gain weight by having carbs late at night, there's no real science that shows that. So at the end of the day, if you're consuming an abundance amount of calories, you're going to spill over, and that causes weight gain. Not eating right before you go to bed, that doesn't cause weight gain. You actually think that you're burning more muscle or burning more calories sitting in a chair than you are sleeping. So I don't think that you have to cut your calories at night or cut your carbs at night. I think you have to look at the overall day. Okay, so if your carbs are low throughout the day and you want to have 1 carb meal before you go to bed, I usually eat oatmeal before we go to bed. And I don't have a problem with my weight. It actually helps me sleep. The fiber helps me sleep. So I don't think you need to cut your carbs before you go to sleep.
I'm just going to add, I think we can all agree that Nick has a pretty amazing physique year round. He eats carbs constant. What he does is bar none to the rest of us. It's like a machine, but he will get up in the middle of the night and eat a bowl of oatmeal. He will actually raw oatmeal and protein powder multiple times. Yeah. So it's a constant carb intake, which I don't think he'd ever recommend to anybody. And I may have just spilled a dirty secret, but it is also, I've never seen you cut down really on, unless you're doing something unhealthy as in training for a show, then maybe a few nights before that show you stop doing that, but that's about it.
Well, and that's another thing too, is I had a nutrition practitioner on the channel today, and that show is going to be aired on Thursday. And she was talking about, I said, what's the biggest misconception that you see with people in diets? And she said, everyone's afraid of carbs. And she said, I don't understand why everyone's afraid of carbs. So we obviously know which carbs we're talking about. We want to keep the carbs complex, like your oatmeal, cream of rice, brown rice, yams, sweet potatoes. We're not talking about pizza and pasta. But I mean, carbs are not the enemy. You need carbs, especially if you're training with weights and you're exercising and you're active. Your body does need carbohydrates.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, we can add to that some other time, but I remember in the 80s, the trend was actually like all carbs.
Yeah.
If you look into the diet trend in the 80s, they were like, yeah, you've got to go on this like constant French fry pasta diet.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to really lose weight. So
you're right.
Different thoughts as we learn and go on. Number 6, hi, Nick. I train 5 times a week for 90 minutes each workout, 60 minutes of weights and 30 minutes of cardio. Should I do my cardio before or after my weights for best results?
Yeah, so I would say that depends on your goals. If your goal is to build muscle, that's your primary goal, and you want to burn body fat, I would recommend doing your weights before and doing your cardio after. Now, if your goal is to burn fat and you don't really care about building muscle, I guess you could do your cardio first, but I still don't advise people doing their cardio first, because I like most of my clients to usually eat something before they train in the gym. And then after they've trained with weights to do their cardio, because don't forget, when you walk into the gym, if you've had something to eat, you're going to use those carbohydrates to your advantage to lift heavier. It's all about the glycogen receptors, right? So once your weight workout's done, your glycogen receptors are depleted, and now you can do your cardio. And at that point, what's your primary fuel source? It's going to be fat, because you've used up the carbohydrates from your meal pre-workout. Now, if you're training in a fasted state, I guess it doesn't really matter, because I mean, you can do your cardio before weights. I just don't like doing cardio prior to weights, because I find that really takes a lot out of most people, and then they don't have enough energy for the weightlifting. So I always recommend weights before cardio. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, very good. Number 7, hi, Nick. Will alcohol have an impact on my gains from the gym?
It won't help you. So the thing with alcohol, you have to remember, A, excess calories, right? You don't need those calories. B, sugar. And C is going to be performance. So if you're someone who drinks alcohol on a regular basis and you're going to the gym the next day, your performance is going to be hindered. I don't care what people say. I have got some clients who do drink excessively, and I notice in the gym, their performance is not nearly as good as my clients who don't drink or drink very little. Same thing with results. I notice my clients who are not big drinkers, their results, I mean, it's on a consistent basis. Whereas people who drink, they kind of just stay flat. They don't really progress. They don't regress, but they stay flat. So I don't think alcohol, I mean, yeah, you should have every once in a while, you know, sit back and relax and have a drink. But as far as drinking on a regular basis, I personally don't drink. I know Robyn doesn't drink. I don't really see any room for alcohol in a diet plan that if your goal is to build muscle and lose fat and transform your physique. So personally, I don't think alcohol has any benefits. Will it stop your gains? It probably won't stop them, but it probably will slow them down. You probably won't get the best results from keeping it in the plan.
No.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like having any other sugar intake at the end of the day, or high carb, something like that. It's just, you know, and especially if you're talking excessive, then you've got multiple layers of things that are much beyond. Your worries aren't about training. I think having, you know, like a glass of wine on the weekend, or, you know, 3 or something, fine, whatever. If you're having 3 glasses of wine in the afternoon and 6 at night or something like that, I wouldn't, you know, you've got, I think, the multiple issues beyond gaining muscle. Yeah.
You have other problems that you should be contacting me. Maybe going to an AA meeting or something, but
okay. Anyways, but number 8, hey, Nick, why did the FitCon go to jail? He mentioned that when he was on your show last week.
Oh, for Jordan. Yeah, you know what's funny is that we didn't really cover it. I think he'd be open to discussing it. It just wasn't something I asked, and it wasn't something that he went into. I do think that Jordan's pretty open about why he went to jail, though. And I mean, we did talk about it for a good 15, 20 minutes about his experiences in jail. So, you know, I would say reach out to him. He's very open and honest. I mean, Robyn, you know Jordan. He's a very easygoing guy. And I'm sure
I think it's very impressive how he's, you know, made the life change and has such a passion for health and fitness now.
Yeah. The reason I didn't ask that, you know, I personally do know the reason why, but I don't feel it's necessary. Well, I don't feel it's my story to tell. But you know what? I wasn't really interested as to why he went to jail. I was more interested to know his experiences while he was in jail and his life after jail, how he was able to, restart his life again. That to me was more impressive, not the reason why he went to jail.
I
So
think so.
again, yeah, if you're curious, I'd reach out to Jordan. I mean, I plugged in his Instagram on the video, FitCon, and that's his actual Instagram name, FitCon. So I would just reach out to him and ask him. I'm sure he'll tell you.
Yeah. Very open and honest guy. Number 9, Nick, I have sharp pain in my knee every time I squat. Any suggestions on what I can do to fix this?
So without knowing the entire situation, usually when I have someone that comes to work with me and they tell me, I can't squat because I have bad knees, the first thing I say to them is, you have bad knees because you don't squat. But let's just say that this person might have, she rolled her eyes. She hates when I say that. But I do say that. Okay, but let's just say this person has something like patellofemoral syndrome, for example, right? That's a serious issue. And I have worked with people in the past, no matter what they do with their squat technique, it still hurts. So I usually recommend 2 things. First, don't walk into the gym and start squatting right away. Warm up with some isometric work. Maybe do some walking lunges, maybe do some step ups, do some dynamic stretching prior to getting into that squat rack. Second, if you're not already doing it, try squatting with your shoes off. I would say that has a 90% success rate with the people I work with. Most people find that when they squat with their shoes off, we talked about this on the Q&A a couple of weeks ago, their squat is so much better. Not only is their form better and their technique, they actually feel it more in their quads, their glutes, and their hamstrings. So those would be the 2 things I'd recommend doing first. And if it still bothers you after all that, I would look into working with either a physio or maybe go see an RMT, do some active release work. There's multiple things you could do. And, worst case scenario, get tested. Go get an ultrasound done. Go see if there's something going on with your knee. You might have a little bit of arthritis in your knee too, right? So it's really hard to diagnose that without knowing this person. But yeah, those were things I would do first, because I find even as I get older now, I need more warm up. I can't just jump right into the squat rack like I did 5-10 years ago. I need to warm up first. And Robyn will tell you, I need to do about 10 minutes of active release work before I even get into the squat rack. Age is a bitch.
And I wear knee braces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is because of, the actual issues and so on, but it's protect what you have while you have it.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about that too, is with knee braces. So my thing with knee braces is this. I'm actually for knee braces. Again, case dependent though. So if I'm working with someone who, no matter what they're doing, it still bothers their elbow or their knee, I'll recommend a brace. And then I'll say, but not forever, just for a few weeks, maybe a few months, and then we're going to take that brace off. We use it like a cane. I don't want someone to rely on it forever. It's a crutch. We don't want to have to use it forever. But if that brace gives someone a sense of security and the knee is actually locked in the quad more and they feel it more in the muscle, I say go with it, but don't rely on it forever. There's going to be come a time where you want to break away from that brace.
Good advice. Number 10. Nick, what are your thoughts on the recent ban of assault weapons in Canada? In brackets, 1,500 assault weapons.
I'm 100% for the ban of assault weapons. Okay, my own personal views on this. I don't think anyone should have a gun except for police, RCMP, VPD, maybe some government officials, but I do not believe that the average person should be walking around with a gun. And I don't care if people say, well, it's for my hunting or it's for my recreational use or whatever it is, because I've seen people on Facebook really upset about this. I don't think guns have a place in our country. For what? What do you need a gun for these days? What do you think about that?
You know my thoughts. I've heard a lot of people talk on it, and I did live in the States for quite some time, and I remember there was one situation where I was driving between San Diego and LA on quite a regular basis, and I was told actually by someone who was a police officer, to be safe, I should get a gun, and it floored me because I thought we're now at worst case. And they said, well, because you don't know if that person should have a gun. They didn't say, take a self-defense class, learn driving, learn techniques, do whatever. They said, get a gun so you can shoot somebody because they're going to have a gun. And we've got this cycle of violence and what they're talking about is death, is a life. yeah, you want to shoot that person, kill them, get rid of their life or whatever before they do that to you. And that was first thought. And it makes me upset. And it's still to this day, because that is the domino effect of that society. And I certainly don't want to see it here. What happened recently in our country with the mass shooting is so beyond heartbreaking, which I think led to this ban. And particularly in rural areas, I suppose, where people need to protect themselves against areas. I can't speak on that. But I do know that in a city, like concealed weapons, a handgun, anything like that, like what this is not needed for the general public. It doesn't mean that there won't still be horrible things, but let's reduce that possibility and reduce it with quick fire. You know, like it's incredibly upsetting. And I feel a little ignorant because as a Canadian, I always had pride that we had less guns. And I actually thought this was a step that we have. And I feel incredibly ignorant for saying that beforehand. But of course, get rid of them. Like, why does Bob have that capability of having that?
Yeah.
Bob, Tom, or Joe, you know?
It's been brought to light that Canada does have a gun problem. And I didn't know that either. I thought we had guns, we were under control for that. But apparently not. And it was even more apparent. And I think I showed you a few posts on my Facebook, and I was surprised by people that I'm friends with that were so against this ban. And I'm thinking, I actually got into a little bit of a heated argument with someone over it. And I'm like, why are you against this ban? What do you need a gun for? It's like, well, it's my right. I'm like, right. But I mean, you have a lot of rights. And I mean, we're not taking away your rights, but what do you need a gun for? You know, I mean, there's no reason to have a gun anymore. You know what I mean? Especially in Canada. I know in the US, they're all gun happy. But you're in Canada,
But that's a problem.
I agree, but that's not what the question is. We're talking strictly Canada right now. I don't want to go into the US issues.
Like they get it, like Tom gets it because Bob has it.
Yeah.
Domino.
Yeah, we can make a whole episode on the US gun problem, and that's not what the question was. It was more about here in Canada. And
nobody wants to.
Yeah, but you know what? Where I stand, and I know where you stand on it, is I'm 100% for it. And I think, I don't think any citizen should have a gun. Period.
No. Yeah, and I know some of my American friends won't appreciate me saying this either, and others will 100% agree. But it is, or some Canadian. I don't know.
I have Canadian friends that disagree with this.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's their opinion.
Yeah, but it's been done, so that's that. And we have 4 laws to look forward to, and all of these amazing rights as Canadians that we don't even realize that we have.
Yeah.
And we live in the society that we live in, and there's other things to fight for in the future. Weapons to kill each other, I just don't think that's on the highest amount of the list. Everybody have a self-defense class instead of square dancing, much higher on the list learning, you know. Okay, sorry. So number 11, we'll just move on. Number 11, hey Nick, where do you get most of your clients from, Instagram or Facebook?
Neither. It's funny. Yes, I'm active on both, but and I tell people this all the time. I don't use our social media platforms to get new clients. I actually use it for our clients. I want to continue to remain relevant with our clients, offer them another service, you know, do these Q&As, interview people who I find fascinating that like I interviewed a dietitian the other day. I interviewed a nutritionist today. I introduced someone who specializes in bar last week. These are things that, you know, I don't specialize in, and I'm trying to get, you know, not only promote their services, but also try to give our clients some other insight to other services that is available here in Vancouver, British Columbia. But no, I get most of my clients through referral, and that's been the case for the last 20 years. And I think that's the best way to get clients, because anyone who's ever referred their friend or family member to me usually becomes a long-term client. So I've never relied on social media to get new clients. I use social media as a way to remain relevant and continue to offer other services to our current clients.
Yep. Sorry. Number 12, my cholesterol levels are high, a bit high, and my doctor recommended I take eggs out of my diet. Is he right?
No, he's not right, period. So that's an issue I have sometimes with general practitioners, is that they just assume that, oh, it's got to be, in this case, you know, if your HDL or your LDL levels, let's say your LDL levels are too high for cholesterol, right away it must be, you know, fats, your fats are too high. Sometimes that's the case, especially if you're having a lot of trans fats in your diet or saturated fats. but omega-3 fats are actually good for your body. They're
Mhm.
actually going to lower your cholesterol levels. So that's the wrong advice. Now, if you're just eating regular eggs, I mean, I would just switch that over to omega-3 eggs. But no, I've had people who have cholesterol issues and they're eating omega-3 eggs and it's actually helped bring it down. So, you know, I would say that's the wrong advice. I would be looking at your diet though. And then don't forget too, sometimes high cholesterol levels could just be a genetic thing. I have people I work with who've got super clean diets, but luck of the draw, they've got high cholesterol levels. So they have to go on something like Lipitor or something. But you know, that's what I'd be looking at first is, okay, do I need to take out my eggs, or is there somewhere else in my diet I might need to adjust first? I would start looking at trans fats and saturated fats. And worst case scenario, if your levels are just high, you might have to go on something like Lipitor as you continue along.
Mhm. Smart. Number 13, my son is 14 and he wants to start lifting weights and needs me to sign a consent form to allow me to join a gym. Will lifting weights at this age stunt his growth and have a negative impact on hormones?
I have never seen one study that shows that teenage boys that train with weights, their growth gets stunted or lowers their testosterone. If anything, it's probably going to elevate their testosterone. Not that they need that as a teenage boy, but I started training with weights when I was 13, 14 years old. I don't consider myself short. I'm 5'9", 5'10" on a good day. But I'm not, it never did anything to my growth. I can tell you right now, it never did anything. It never dropped my testosterone levels. I've always had quite high testosterone levels, especially when I get my blood work done. So I've never seen that. I have friends that have trained since they were 13, 14. I've never seen any adverse side effects. So I know people will say that, but I think that's more just bro science. I don't think there's any truth to that.
Or anti-bro science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, and then one more thing I want to add to that too. I think actually I wish I had trained more when I was a teenager because it probably would have kept me out of trouble. I got into a lot of trouble when I was a teenager, and I thought, you know, if I had stayed on the path and continued along with the weight training, because I kind of fell out of it when I was like 17, 18. But that keeps you very regimented, gives you a good plan, gives you good, you know, you follow a routine. So I think it's actually good to incorporate that at a young age. Oh, you froze on me, Robyn. Just going to pause for 1 second here. Sorry, we had a technical difficulty. Okay, so what was the next question?
Okay, number 14. Can I lift weights every day if I don't feel tired and sore, or do I really need to take a scheduled day off?
Well, if you're never tired or sore, I don't think you're probably not training hard enough. I mean, you should be sore at some point. So, I mean, I don't know, how hard are you training? As far as taking a day off, I think it's crucial to take a day off, but I don't like the way I do it with my own training. I don't just take a day off because it's once a week. I take a day off when my body tells me I need a day off. So I was talking about this actually with Jordan on the channel last week, FitCon, about sometimes I'll train 10, 12 days in a row without any days off. And I feel fine. I don't feel overtrained. I'm sore, but I can still train. But there comes a point where I'm like, okay, now I don't want to train. My body is tired. It's sore. I have to listen to your body. So I think it's important to have a day off. Whether that's a scheduled day off, that's up to you. But I personally wouldn't let it go longer than, 2 weeks without taking at least one day off from the weights. And I mean, that doesn't mean you have to take a day off from exercise. You can still do cardio if you want on your day off from weights. I do advise most of my clients to take at least one day off a week. But for myself personally, I know
from weight training.
From weight training, yes, not from everything. I still think it's good to do something every day. So the day that I take off from weight training, what I usually do is I do more cardio, whether that be more time on the treadmill or I go for more long walks outside. So I'm always doing something. But I do think it's important because not just for your muscles, but also for your nervous system, your central nervous system. You don't want to overtax that. You don't want to fry out your adrenal glands. So yeah, I would definitely recommend taking a day off. I don't necessarily think it has to be once or twice a week. I think it can be in your own schedule, but I wouldn't let it go more than 2 weeks without taking at least one day off from weight training.
Yeah, smart. Okay. Sorry. Hi, Nick. Just wondering as to how many reps I should be doing during my sets if I want to build muscle.
So general rule of thumb, you get the rule book and it says 4 to 6 reps if you want to build power, 8 to 12 reps if you want to build muscle, and 12 to 20 reps if you want to tone. I hate that word, tone. But I personally think again that's going to be more depending on the way you train. Are you circuit training? Are you doing basic straight set training? I generally try to keep my clients rep range between that 8 to 15 mark. But again, it depends on the muscle group we're working. If we're working fast twitch muscle fibers, slow twitch muscle fibers, are we having a heavy day or are we having a light day? So I like to play around with the rep scheme. I don't believe in the one size fits all. It has to be 8 to 12, has to be, 12 to 15. I go by feel. So myself personally, sometimes I'll do squats up to 20 reps because it feels good. And I never like to go below 10 reps on anything. I find if your goal is to build muscle, try to stay in double digits. So if I can't get a certain weight and I'm only getting, say, that weight at like 8 or 9 reps, I'll drop the weight to make sure I can still get 10. So that's a good rule of thumb I like to use, is keep your reps in double digits if your goal is to build muscle. If you just want to build pure raw strength and power, yeah, go for the 3 to 6 reps. You'll get strong. I don't know if you'll necessarily build a lot of muscle from that though.
Smart. Okay. Number 16. What's your biggest pet peeve when it comes to gym etiquette? Mine is people on the phone.
That's actually one of mine too.
Yeah.
It's not my main one. The biggest pet peeve I have in the gym is people not cleaning up after themselves.
Yeah.
And hopefully maybe after COVID-19, people will take this as a lesson, because there's nothing I hate more than walking into a gym and, plates are loaded on the leg press or plates are on the floor. There's dumbbells out of place. And people will say, well, you're just super OCD. No, I'm not OCD, but my parents taught me that when I'm done with something, you put it away. You don't walk away from it. And nothing irritates me more than I walk into a gym and I see, like, I've seen this happen multiple times where there might be someone who's obviously not as strong or fit trying to clear plates that someone else has just left either on the leg press or either in a squat rack or on a machine that's loaded. So yeah, I say clean up after yourself. That's the thing that drives me insane. Phones drive me insane too, but if I had to pick between the two, I'd say clean up your shit.
Yeah. You haven't finished the exercise until you've cleaned it and put them back in the appropriate spot.
Yeah.
That is the full exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, that's every gym etiquette. And that's also just the way training is. Yeah. That's the full exercise.
And I know some gyms that if you don't clear your weights, you get
get kicked out.
Not right away. You'll get like one warning. And if you do it again, they kick you out. And you know what? Good. I think they should be, because if you can't put away your weights, you shouldn't be training. So that's my biggest pet peeve. Clear your shit.
I feel like we're going to go back and people are going to wipe it off, like wipe down the weight and then just leave it on the machine.
Yeah, I can see that happening too.
Okay. Number 17. Hi, Nick. Is diet pop dangerous of a drink as some experts suggest? Sorry.
I don't think diet pop is dangerous. I think it's unhealthy. I'm not a big fan of aspartame, but I don't think aspartame kills people. I think aspartame's got a really bad rep. I personally don't really have much aspartame in my diet, but every once in a while I'll have a diet pop, and so will Robyn. I'm still alive. I think drinking excessive diet pop is bad. And that's another thing too, is I see, like, if you ever see someone who drinks a lot of diet pop, like I'm talking like 2-4 liters a day sometimes, they're usually not really in good shape. So I think if you have too much aspartame, not only is that bad for you, but it also it heightens your sugar cravings. So I don't think it's good for your blood sugar levels. One can of diet pop here and there, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's fine. But I don't think diet pop is dangerous. No, I think this has had a really bad reputation. I personally don't drink diet pop, but every once in a while I might have a Diet Coke or something if we're out, at a big party or event, which we rarely go to. But that's about it. What about you? Yeah. What do you think about diet pop?
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand where this is coming from, because for the longest time I thought, oh my gosh, diet pop's the worst thing because of all the information on it. But in the aspartame, and sorry, there is another ingredient that's formaldehyde, I believe. There's actually a bit of it. And I was like, this is incredible. How is this sold? Blah, blah, blah. And then regular pop, which is also awful. All these things. And I realized that the testing and the studies that were being done to the amounts that they were talking on was talking about people having like more than 1 to, it could be, I think it was something like 2 liter. It was over 1 2 liter a day.
Wow.
And this is for a multiple amount of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if I think if you're having, again, as we were saying with that, if you're having over that amount of diet pop or regular pop, or like coffee, tea, whatever, you've got some sort of weird control, diet issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Regular pop, diet pop, neither of them are really great, but like neither is ice cream. But if you do decide to, have a treat or do whatever, do it fine. But I know that I always grew up with, there was, you were allowed one can of pop on Friday or Saturday, maybe sometimes if you were lucky Friday and Saturday. And, that was it. So in reasonable controlled amounts like that, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. But anything in excess, diet pop, both, like if you're going to have a Coke or Diet Coke, still pretty bad in excess.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to add to that too. Robyn brings up a good point.
Yeah.
A lot of times I have clients that send me links and from, so-and-so says this, or, someone says that. Yeah. And I say, okay, but where are you getting this study from? Like, do your research. Like, make sure it's a real study. Don't just say, well, the guy on YouTube, even me, like I always tell my clients, if I say something, question it. Go do your research, do your due diligence, figure out, is this actually accurate or not? Because I'm not suggesting you go out, and I know Robyn's not either saying go buy a whole bunch of diet pop right now. We're just saying that there's no studies, no conclusive studies that show a link to diet pop causing all these health issues down the road. But again,
excessive, yes.
That's what excessive. Yeah. Okay, so we're saying,
yeah.
In moderation, but not even in moderation. I always say, the least amount of stuff like that, the better. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As far as studies, you really have to look into each one. I did some schooling and so on, and what was always said in stats, 3 types of lies in the world: lies, damn lies, and statistics.
There you go.
So watch your information before you really get too heavily inputted by it. Okay, sorry, I moved up here. Okay, I have severe pain in my left elbow whenever I try to train my triceps. Do you have any tips of how I can fix this?
Okay, so unless this person's been diagnosed with either golfer's elbow or tennis elbow, let's say they might have a little bit of tendonitis in their elbow, which is actually very common, especially for weightlifters. I know I get some actually in my right elbow. So you said train triceps, is that right?
Triceps, yeah.
Yeah. So what I usually find that works well for triceps, and I do this every single one of my clients that works with me, I never start any of my clients off with free weights for triceps. I'll usually warm up their triceps with cables. So whether it's a rope extension or a straight bar extension, something that just gives a little bit more fluid to the actual elbow itself, rather than doing, let's say, dumbbell kickbacks or easy bar skull crushers, which are both free weight movements. I find that puts a lot of pressure on the joint to first warm up. So I find, especially for the elbows, just doing some nice fluid movements on the cables. And I do that for myself too. I'll usually do about maybe 8 or 10 working sets of my triceps on the cables first, and then move on to free weights. And that usually works best for most people. Because don't forget too, especially as you get older, and I'm not saying like in your 80s, I'm even saying me, I'm in my 30s, and I notice this now, is that the joints start to, they do break down a little bit, and you are more susceptible to things like tendonitis, bursitis. Mm-hmm. It takes a little bit longer to release that synovial fluid into the joints. So take time with your body, listen to your body. And, I would recommend warming up first with cables before hitting the free weights when it comes to smaller muscle groups like the biceps and triceps.
Yeah. Smart. Okay. Number 19. Hi, Nick. Whose panties did those belong to in the photo of your sex blog last week?
Oh, they were Nick's. They were mine.
They were Nick's panties.
Yeah, I know. People were wondering whose those were. Whose panties do you think they were? Obviously,
they were Nick's.
If there were some other girls, she wouldn't be on here right now doing the Q&A. So they were Robyn's panties, not my panties. She actually took off her panties too for that photo.
Whoa! Oh my God, Nick.
No, she didn't. She didn't.
Let's say next question, please. Well, I'm not doing this with you anymore. Hi, Nick. Can you recommend a good whey protein powder?
Yeah, I recommend one all the time. Well, first of all, if you're going to do a protein powder, whey isolate. And I recommend whey isolate even for my clients who are vegans or vegetarians. I think it's great. Now, if someone does want to go for plant-based protein powder, okay, fine. But just make sure that plant-based protein powder is protein and not full of carbs. The reason why I recommend whey isolate is it's very clean protein. It's pure protein. There's very little carbs, maybe like 1 or 2 grams of indirect carbohydrates. And most people I work with, especially people with IBS, they find that they can digest that really well, a good whey isolate. The one that I recommend is actually at Costco. Now, depending on where you live, I know here in Vancouver, British Columbia, we have a good way isolate at the Costco store here, Superstore, and it's like, I think it's like $50 or something. And I made posts on my Instagram about this, and Robyn likes to buy excessive amounts of it. Like she'll buy like 12 cases of it sometimes and make me post it on Instagram. But that's the protein powder I use. It's a good protein source, tastes pretty good. And what I like about it, it's sweetened primarily with stevia. Very little bit of in there too. So that's important too. Because when you are buying not just protein powders, but any supplements, you have to make sure they're not sweetened fully with a whole bunch of sucralose, because sucralose is not good for you, right? So again, you can have a little bit of it, but too much, not good. So I usually try to get my protein powder sweetened with stevia. Okay? Stevia is a more natural sugar.
Okay, good. Number 21, Nick, how has your training in the gym evolved over the years during your workouts?
I'm smarter in the gym these days, much smarter. When I was young, I used to just go in and lift heavy right away. She's rolling her eyes at me again.
I'm joking. But, I was joking because it's funny. Yeah.
But I'm more methodical. I'm more methodical with the way I approach training now. I always go in with a game plan. I don't just go by, well, today I'm going to work arms and tomorrow I'm going to work arms. Whatever I'm training today has to make sense for tomorrow's workout. So let me give you an idea of that. Like yesterday I trained chest. Today I'm going to train back. The day after that I'm going to train shoulders. So everything, I don't just put random muscle groups together. I also make sure I warm up more in the gym these days. Like I take more time to warm up. In the past, I would just go in the gym and start lifting heavy. And that's a really good way to injure yourself. I work with a lot of people who've had pulled their pecs, pulled their quads, pulled their hamstrings. None with me on the floor, but when they come to work with me, they say, oh, I had this injury or that. And I say, how'd you do it? Say, well, I wasn't warmed up properly and I just pulled down the first 5 minutes of the workout. So I definitely take more time to warm up. The ego is no longer there. I think when I was in my 20s, I had a bit of an ego when I lifted. It was all about the weight. Now it's more about controlling and feeling the weight. So I think that just comes with time, though. They always say, everything's easier in hindsight. But I wish when I was younger, I had taken better care of my body, because I'm paying for it now. I still have some problems with my joints, but no serious injuries. And I want to stay that way. Because remember, if you get injured in the gym, then what? There goes your training. You might not be able to train for 6 months, 7, who knows how long, a year. So, a serious injury can really set you back. So definitely I'm more methodical with the way I approach my training now.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say everything you do in life is very methodical, but you are, especially in the gym, very much so, whether it be going to the next exercise or tomorrow or to next week or to 5 years from now, those are all your thought processes during that one exercise leading into the next exercise. Yeah, it is really, when I first met you and we talked about it and you went into the full theory of it all, it is actually it's very much a long-term thought process. Yeah, that has evolved over years.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that bodybuilders are just these meatheads, and I know a lot of very intelligent bodybuilders. And especially if you talk to the older guys, I had a guy on my channel named Chuck Thompson a few weeks ago, and the guy's done over 130 bodybuilding shows. I said to him, do you have any serious injuries? He's in his 70s now. He said, not a single one. And it's because he's trained every single session he goes into that gym. He knows what he's going to do, and he's very, very methodical with the way he approaches his workouts. And he told me that. So he's like, it's all about longevity.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, weight training, exercising, that is the goal. I mean, as much as you want to talk about bodybuilding and all the rest, exercising, weight training, that's the goal.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're doing today or yesterday and tomorrow in the gym is going to give us a better life for the future. And I mean, I can speak on that. I know that's something that I talk about with my parents, and I see it very much in examples of how one has lived and not how the other. And it's amazing. It's taking care of your body. And it's not just about, we care about the way we look, but also how we feel like it. Yeah. And it's this little level of protection of insurance, like taking care of ourselves and exercising correctly, which you have taught me will give us insurance for a future that we don't know.
Yeah.
It's money in the bank saved up for a rainy day.
That's right. It's an investment
for
in
COVID.
Your health.
Yeah.
Well, and it is too. And I have a lot of clients who are in their 60s and 70s, and they have no health issues. And people can say, well, it's genetics. Yeah, maybe a little bit of genetics, but at the same time, these people are staying consistent. They invest in their health. They see me 3-4 times a week. This is not a plug for my services. I'm just saying they're doing something about their health. They don't think of it as a cost. They think of it as an investment.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, number 22. Robyn mentioned she follows more of a plant-based diet last week on the Q&A. Is she vegan? Do you want me to?
That one's for you, not
okay.
for me.
Okay, so I would never say I'm vegan, because I believe that that's a larger encompassing word, and I think putting yourself down to one diet in general is, I don't know, it's like a religion now. It's a weird thing to go about. I take a lot of medication. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of that's been tested on animals, but I primarily do follow a plant-based diet, but that wavers. If I'm like, if I have problems with really, really low iron, and and I'm not, sometimes it's easier to get in, because I also have problems digesting vegetables sometimes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I will have like some form of meat, be it fish or chicken or something like that. And I know that for me also, I go up and down. I would never say I'm vegan. I do primarily follow a plant-based diet right now.
Yeah.
And it wavers, and it's also, yeah, my diet changes a lot. And for me, it's what's working right now. And yeah, there's a little bit of morality in with it, because sometimes I just start to feel bad. Like you start to get on about everything, but in general, I wouldn't say it's primarily, sure, plant-based, but definitely, I wouldn't say that I'm a vegan.
Yeah, and I can tell you that neither one of us actually really consumes that much meat. I mean, I definitely consume a lot more meat than she does, but we don't, for example, neither of us eat red meat. And that's just something like, that I think I've talked about this in the past. That's more just of the way that red meat digests in the body and the colon.
Yeah.
I'm not a firm believer in incorporating red meat into my diet plan, and I know Robyn doesn't have it in hers.
Yeah.
But as far as meat's concerned, we're both, when we do eat meat, it's primarily fish and white meat, chicken breast. It comes back to cod, or tuna, some salmon for the healthy fats. But it's usually very lean cuts of meat. And the fattiest meat that we'll consume is salmon, really. I mean, that's the fattiest. Yeah. No pork, no beef. Neither of us do that.
Yeah, but pork is one of those ones too that if you ask vegan or vegetarian for, I guess, more moral issues, pork is one that I can definitely not, like, there'd be no way I'd do pork or octopus or something like that ever again.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of study into it. And it doesn't mean that I don't have those same feelings about chickens, but I've maybe a little less.
Yeah.
But yeah, primarily plant-based, but definitely not a vegan. Okay, number 23. Hi, Nick. How are you training your clients online who don't have access to a gym due to COVID right now?
This is a great question, because I have actually
very poignant.
I have one of my clients who's actually been working with me since her gym closed, more now. And I'm going to get her on the channel this week, and we're going to talk about what we've been doing as far as training, because she doesn't have access to any gym whatsoever. So what I usually do when I am working with a client who's training either at a gym that's been closed or a training, they don't have access to a gym anymore, what I'll do is, okay, what do you have? And they'll tell me, sometimes people don't have, let's say the person has nothing, no dumbbells, no kettlebells, nothing. So what I'll usually have them do is body weight work. But what I'll do is I'll put it in a circuit. So rather than just do, okay, let's do 15 push-ups and rest, I'll say, no, 15 push-ups, throw in, 15 body weight squats, and complement that with, let's say, 15 burpees. So it gets the heart rate up. And so now those body weight exercises become more challenging because you're not resting as much in between. So typically what I'll do with my clients who are doing in-house training right now, as far as at their own home, I'll get them doing little circuits in their house. I don't do Zoom workouts with clients. I've made that very clear. Megan does Zoom workouts with clients, but I'll actually design the programs. And the way our training platforms work is all the exercises that I give clients, I send them on our app, and it goes so they actually know how to do each exercise. There's videos of me doing the exercises. So it's not like, well, how do you do that? And they have to go on YouTube and look for the exercise. We send that to them. So, and funny enough, when COVID-19 first happened, I threw that out there to clients that, I was already doing online training with people, as you know. But I said, if anyone's looking to work with me online, we don't need to have a gym. We can still make this work. And it's worked out really well. I'm actually busier than ever. I think I put this up on my Instagram story last week. showed you. I had 101 emails come Friday morning, and they were all clients.
Yeah.
They're all from people doing their check-ins. So people are staying on top of that, which is great to see. So I think it can be done. I think, again, you're only setting your own limitation by saying, well, I don't have the gym right now, so I'm just going to give up my training. There are things you can do. We've put up some videos on Instagram, but we don't put up all the secrets because that is something that people, subscribe to. Right?
Yeah.
Can't give it all away.
Okay, and then on that note of the secrets of Forever Fit and Nicholas Cosgrove, we're going to leave it off. That was the last question.
And Robyn's panties.
Oh my God, Nick! I swear to God. Okay.
That's the last question.
I'm hanging up now. That's it.
No.
That was the last question. That was the last question.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Well, you can't just hang up.
I'm going to hang up. This is how our conversation goes.
You have to say goodbye. You can't just hang up. It's not professional. So thank you, everyone. This Q&A is going to be going
my underwear.
This Q&A and Robyn's underwear is going to be going up on Wednesday afternoon. And so thank you for listening. This was our 4th Q&A. So
going up and staying up.
This is going to get a lot of views just because
I'm
going to put your panties in the heading. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.